Hi YouTube. It's been over 4 weeks since the Brexit vote. I won't mince my words. It horrified me in so many ways. It horrified me as a teacher that 52% of the population thought they knew better than the experts. Over 600 economists were surveyed. 88% of them thought that we should stay in the EU, and yet over half the population thought they knew better. And Michael Gove, who used to be in charge of our education system, what did he say? Oh yes, the public are tired of experts. A man in charge of our education sector at one time, who, by the way, every teacher hates with passion. I am a bit calmer now. I believe most of the Brexiters were duped. A lot of people voted out for anti-establishment reasons. Well, you've annoyed a lot of rich people. Well done. But all they're going to do is move their money somewhere else. That's why the pound has plummeted to the lowest level since 1985. And of course, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Gibraltar, they all voted to remain. Eventually, they will leave. I think Gibraltar will wait for Scotland to become independent and then switch their sovereignty to them. Easy way for them to have a chance of EU membership, provided Scotland's allowed in, but without surrendering to Spain. This reduces our power. I'll make a few predictions. I don't think Owen Smith is going to be leader of the Labour Party. I think Jeremy Corbyn will win easily because the Labour Party attracts the sort of people who love Jeremy Corbyn. It doesn't attract moderate people anymore. I also predict that we won't choose the Norway, Switzerland and Iceland options because, let's face it, those are the worst of both worlds. They still have to pay the membership fee, but they have no say in where it goes. They still have to have free movement of labour, which apparently is a bad thing. Never mind, study after study has shown it makes countries richer. So, if we chose that option, the halfway house, Remainers would still be angry, losing EU citizenship. Brexiters would still be angry, because a lot of them want to be out of the single market too. And they'll still have free movement of labour. But the truth is, no Tory government has ever really restricted immigration, not properly. They had control over 188,000 non-EU immigrants, and they didn't expel them en masse, because they would lose business support, and they would lose voters to the Lib Dems. That's my other prediction. I don't think there'll be an early general election, because I can't see anyone gaining seats except for the Liberal Democrats and UKIP, the most pro and anti-EU parties we have, because the country is polarised. It had to be a Remainer who ended up in charge, of course. Once again, the balanced party. The Tories have shown far superior to the Labour Party, whose process, I'm sorry to say it, is too democratic. It's too populist. Jeremy Corbyn might be a much nicer person than Nigel Farage or Donald Trump or the Brexiter crowd, but he's part of this same populism. But it's unprofessional. These boring, bland politicians like John Major and Tony Blair, we may loathe them, but they got things done. Results count, not motives. Now, what can we do about this? It might never happen, but we need to stop it for the sake of our economy. And when I say our economy, I am not talking about Britain, I'm talking about London. I'm not British, I'm not English. I find those countries disgusting now. I'm not foreign in any way. I was born in England. I never found English nationalism particularly offensive. But now, every time I see an England flag or a Union Jack, I feel like spitting. It's a wicked, wicked thing we've done, particularly as the EU treated us incredibly well. The rebate. We're allowed to stay out of the Schengen zone. God knows why. I don't see how carrying a passport makes us more secure. And opting out of the euro, we were allowed to do that. Well, we won't be allowed to do that if we ever want to rejoin. Brexit could be a success, I'll admit that. There was an economic study which showed we could grow much faster outside the EU, but only if we get rid of every EU regulation. So effectively, the end of the welfare state. The end of protection of hours we work. The end of holiday pay for part-time workers. The loss of the right to work in 27 other countries without paying a very hefty visa. But of course, they can still have as much cheap immigrant labour as they want, because the Tories will never restrict immigration, in my opinion. I suppose that's one good thing. So yeah, if we get rid of every regulation, every tariff, privatise everything, we could become as prosperous as Hong Kong. But if you can't afford insurance in that scenario, then that means you have no doctors, no fire brigade, no policemen. Capitalism's great if you can afford insurance premiums. If you can't, well, you're helpless. So London needs to break free of the UK. We need an independent city-state. We can do this. Singapore manages it. Hong Kong, San Marino, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg. These are rich, prosperous countries. City-states work very well in history. Venice and Genoa had their own empires. I'm not suggesting that. If we did have an independent London, no army, no export or import quotas, no restrictions on immigration, free trade with the whole world, these need to be written into our constitution. Because that is how you exist in a modern globalised world. It doesn't matter if you're a capitalist or a socialist or whatever. Even if you're a patriot, you should be for these things, because free trade and free movement of labour makes us all richer. It's not a zero-sum game, as the Brexiters seem to think. Now, why do I think London could easily be independent? Firstly, 60% of Londoners voted to remain, and just a month and a half before the referendum, we elected Sadiq Khan as our mayor. There are two democratic items of legitimacy there. London pays a third of British taxes, plus 20% of what we as Londoners pay goes to subsidise the rest of the country. We don't need the UK. The UK needs us. If they tried to force us back into the UK, we would just go on strike. No armed resistance. Those days are long gone. So, what are your thoughts on an independent London? Already 1 in 9 Londoners support this. I think this will just go up and up. I think we will either end up not leaving the EU after all, because it would take 10 years, even if we started now. Simply unravelling EU and British law will take that long. Time for 2 general elections. If it does happen, I think we'll be out of the single market completely. I think we'll only survive by becoming a mass exporter like Hong Kong, which will involve mass privatisation and deregulation of the labour market. It certainly won't involve restrictions on immigration. So the moment Article 50 started, London needs to declare independence to preserve our way of life, our culture, our economy. We have more in common with people in Amsterdam, Paris, Copenhagen, Berlin than we do with the small towns and countryside of the UK. I don't know about you, but when I go to the British countryside, I feel like I'm in an alien world. So, here's hoping for an independent London. Even if we didn't get into the EU immediately, I would still be in favour of it, because, quite frankly, I'm embarrassed to be in the UK. The UK is an embarrassment. We're a laughing stock. The sooner this country is broken up into pieces, the better for the world. Goodbye, ungreat Britain.